Hey everybody, it's time for another Mini Mondays, and today I'm going to be talking about Wander Over Yonder Season 2, which is also the finale of the show. So, I am going to be doing Sonic's Night of the Werehog short thing next week. I wasn't aware of it previously, but this week I've allocated to Wander Over Yonder Season 2, seeing as how it just ended last week-ish. So, this is going to be more of a general idea of the Season 2, and if you want to know my full thoughts on the characters, the story, what's good about it, what's bad about it, everything, you can see my complete review. I'll put a link to it somewhere on the screen here. You can see my complete review there. So anyway, Season 2. What I like most about Season 2 is that it seemed to address most of the issues that I brought up in my review. One was being that Wander, I had a problem with him being not aware that people hated him so much, or at least that's the impression I got, is that he seemed really oblivious to how much people despised him, but they addressed that in Season 2, and I think the way they handled it was really good, showing him that, yeah, he's not an idiot. I don't know why I got that impression, to be honest. A lot of people complained about my complaint. They were saying that, he never was supposed to be an idiot. But I don't know, I just got that impression from him. But no, Season 2 completely addressed that problem. I like the way they took Wander's character. They showed him a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more willing to compromise in a way that makes him a stronger character. So Wander, I really enjoy what they did with him. They went a bit more into his background, who he is, and not really where he came from, but just more about him, a little bit more about him. Not enough, though, but I'll get into that later. The other characters, I like the way they took them, too. Sylvia kind of stayed the same. She's still okay. Hater, I really love. He's one of my favorite villains. He's so vulnerable in this season. Like, the whole thing with hating Dominator, and then loving Dominator, and then hating her again. I like it, and I'm usually against that romantic shit, so it's really a big deal for me to say that I actually enjoy someone's romantic pursuit of another person, because Hater, he just comes off as being so vulnerable and sad and lonely, and I find that kind of sweet. I find it endearing. And also, he's still hilarious, too, so I really enjoy the way Hater was portrayed in Season 2, and even Peepers got an upgrade. He was the only character I really didn't care for in the first season. I just found him kind of grating and annoying, but here, I like him more. I like that he's shown to be a little bit more sensitive. I also think he might have a homosexual attraction for Lord Hater, but that's completely unrelated to the show. That's just sort of the idea I got from him, especially from the last episode. But anyway, so that's my character rundown. Everyone got a good upgrade, except for Sylvia. She remained the same. I like the side characters they introduced. They're fun, too. The scenarios are fun as well. The ones that they introduced, the new episodes, I think are fun. But let's get into the meat of the problem here, the cancellation. Now, I've gone on record several times. I did another Mini Mondays on the Wander Over Yonder shorts as well, but I can't believe this series cancellation, how much it neutered this show. Its potential was amazing. It was such a good idea. These characters were so endearing, so sweet and likable, that the series cancellation, it's probably the most unjust thing I've seen in cartoon history, or at least to me. There are a couple others that come close, but currently in modern cartoon history, I think this is one of the most unjust things to happen to any cartoon, because there's so much potential, even like from a business standpoint, for merchandise, for home sales of DVDs and Blu-rays and everything. There's so much potential. Why didn't Disney go with it? As I've said repeatedly, I'm not a Disney executive or an insider. I don't make these decisions, but I can't honestly see why they wouldn't carry it on. Maybe the show was too expensive to make, I don't know, it kept going on hiatus constantly, which, okay, maybe it was a money thing, and I guess I understand, but, you know, I'd be willing to take a dip in animation quality just to keep it going. You know, they had such a good story going on with Dominator trying to conquer the galaxy and everything, and the way it ended, it wasn't good enough. It just wasn't good enough. You know, the first time I watched the last episode, I was really disappointed in it. Like, I was almost pissed I was so much disappointed in it, but the second time watching it, I was less pissed because I already knew what was going to happen, but I was still just as disappointed because not only did they not explore Wander's backstory to a satisfying point, yeah, you learn some stuff about him, but it's never really explained. You know, it's never really gotten into in depth, so I feel like that was a huge missed opportunity, and you never really figure out anything about the universe. it's still sort of the same thing. It's just the last episode really clinched it for me, where it was like, this was such a good idea, so much potential, and you let it go to waste. Which isn't to say that it couldn't come back for a third season in the future. It could. Hell, it could pull a Samurai Jack and come back like 10 years later, who knows. But at this point, this is what we get. And yes, the finale is not good enough. It doesn't really pull anything together. It's just sort of like... Okay, I'm gonna tell you what the real problem I have with it is. And that's what they did with Dominator. Now, Lord Dominator, throughout the entire season... I really liked Lord Dominator. Not only was she funny, but she was intimidating, she was also really, really sexy, and she was really, really awesome. And then they started insinuating that maybe she didn't want to be evil, she was just lonely or something like that. I hate that implication. I wish Dominator could have just been an evil person. I don't always need my villains to be, like, deep and complex or be lonely and wimpy or whatever. They can just be evil sometimes, and that's more interesting. I like a villain that just absolutely revels in their evil, sort of like the Joker. They just surround themselves in their evil, and they're so immersed in it that they love it. They just take so much joy in hurting other people that I think that's fun, in a villain, if it's done right. And I think Dominator, they were doing it quite right, until they insinuated that, she was just lonely. She was destroying the galaxy because she was lonely. I don't buy it, I liked Dominator when she was an intimidating, sexy, power destruction-hungry maniac. That was way cooler. So, yes, the finale itself, I think, was pretty underwhelming. It should have been like a Gravity Falls finale, where they had this 3-part build-up. Well, I mean, it was a bigger build-up in Gravity Falls, but a 3-part build-up until the big finale, where it was showing, like, Dominator just like pressing down on the characters, just threatening them to the point where they had to fight back. And they didn't do it, they just sort of all crammed it into the last episode. And I feel that's more unjust because quite a few of the last episodes, like in the latter stretch of the season, were wasted opportunities, especially the episode, the Robo-Mecha Botatron. What a wasted opportunity. The Sky Guy, the Sick Day. I don't not like these episodes. I like them, but there's so much wasted time. They could have been telling a better story this whole time, especially the Robo-Mecha Botatron, which was the biggest waste of time episode in the season. It's not my least favorite, but it's still the biggest waste of time. Yeah, overall, Season 2 was building to something really great. I feel like it actually hit a peak with My Fair Haiti, the musical episode, which I really liked the episode. I liked the songs, I liked the character interactions and everything. It's not my favorite, but I really, really enjoyed it. And that was the emotional peak, to be honest, the action peak and everything, but they didn't really do anything with it. The whole Dominator getting ice powers thing, they didn't really do much with it. They're just kind of like, oh, she has ice powers now. And it's like, well... what the hell, you were building this up like it was going to be something huge, and then just nothing. It was like, alright, whatever. So, yeah, overall, I'd say the second season is better than the first, by quite a wide margin, actually. So, if I'm going to review the entire series as a whole, I would round my score up to a 4. A 4 out of 5 eyes, because, yeah, the second season addressed the problems I had before, and... other than being underwhelming, it's still really good. I would still recommend this show to anyone I would talk to. So, anyway, let me wrap this up. So my least favorite episode of the season would have to be the Eye on the Skull ship. This one is just about a watchdog who has a TV show where he just goes around talking to other watchdogs, and he keeps getting caught and told to go back to duty, and he keeps trying to get an interview with Lord Hader. Now, I don't like this episode because in the episode itself, it says that no one wants to watch a show about watchdogs. And they're right. No one wants to watch a show about watchdogs. It's fucking boring. So, yeah, this episode, it does have some funny moments. I don't hate this episode. It's just my least favorite because it's boring. I just don't think it works. Again, I think it's a bit of a waste of time. But whatever. It's just a bit boring. And my favorite episode was really hard to choose. It was really hard to choose. There are 3 contenders for the ones that were my favorite, and that would be the 2 runners-up are The Flower, which was basically just 11 minutes of Wander crying, which breaks my heart, because, oh man, it's so cute, but it's so sad to see Wander cry. The Family Reunion, as well, was another runner-up, because I just really liked the emotional moments in it. They were really good. And also, it's nice to see Sylvia get some emotional moments as well, which you don't see too much of. You know, she's sort of the tough center, so I kind of like I kind of like it there. Also, the scene with Wander eating the lettuce is probably one of the cutest things I've ever seen in my entire life, so it gets a plus there, but it's not quite my favorite. My favorite, though, would have to be the Wanders. So this episode involves Wander, who accidentally gets his entire being shattered into hundreds of different versions of himself, where they all embody one part of him. So Sylvia has to collect all of the fractured pieces of Wander and get him back to the main Wander, or else the main Wander will disappear forever. So that concept alone I really like, but actually it's mostly just the ending that really clinches it for me, because it has a really, really good emotional moment. Unfortunately, they never really followed up with it, which sucks, but it really hints at something bad happened to Wander, something really bad that forms the most important part of his personality, and obviously it really hurt him, so I want to know what that is. I want to know what happened to him, but they never answer those questions, so it's very disappointing, but still, given the merits of the episode itself, it's still my favorite, and I've watched it like 10 times now, and I'll watch it again. Another quick runner-up actually is The Waste of Time, because again, it goes a little bit more into Wander's backstory. I like that one too, but it didn't go far enough, so yeah. Anyway, Wander Over Yonder. It's definitely one of my favorite shows ever. I mean, yes, it's not perfect. It has a lot of problems. But it's the kind of show that you can just really overlook those problems, you know, because you're having such a good time. You care so much about these characters and the scenarios they get in. And it's so funny. It's so bright and colorful. The animation is great. I love this show. It's almost like every time you watch it, it's giving you a big hug, you know? That's what it feels like. It feels like the show is giving you a big hug every time you watch it. And I think it's probably the most inviting show I've ever seen. I said in my original review that it's the show you go to when the world has got you down and you need to laugh and have a good time. I stand by that. When I'm feeling depressed, or sad, or unmotivated, I watch Wander Over Yonder, and it picks me right up. It makes me smile, it makes me laugh. It feels like a show that's your best friend. That's just, it's always waiting for you. And I guess that's sort of the magic of it. And I'm gonna miss this show. I am gonna miss this show a lot. It's definitely my favorite show of Craig McCracken's that he's made. And if you're watching this, Mr. McCracken, I'm sorry they had to take your show, but I just want you to know that it meant a lot to me. It's a great show, and maybe it'll come back in the future, but until then, I'm gonna keep it very close to my heart. So, yeah. Thanks. I appreciate it. That's all I have to say about that.